Hello. How have we all been for the past 4 years? Hopefully, we've been doing good, or doing well, doing dandy, peachy keen. YouTube, understandably, I must say, went on a blitz a couple years ago, taking down a bunch of my videos. And really was not a good incentive for me to continue uploading anything on my channel anymore, because that was really the bread and butter of my whole thing. So that was disappointing, because I really enjoyed reading The Training of an English Gentleman to whoever watched. Some of you enjoyed it, some of you did not. I cannot, in fact, please everyone. So, fair. But it really got me thinking about whether or not I wanted to continue making videos at all. And my idea that I have had floating around in my head was just kind of doing these opinion type videos. I get up on here, I run my mouth, and, hit upload, and, it belongs to the world now. So I am going to do that right now. Because it does, in fact, directly relate to what I have just said. Now, The Training of an English Gentleman aside, I have been increasingly concerned by two intersecting things. And they intersect literally, but as far as the cause, they are quite different. And they both have to do with reading, which I encourage, because I'll just start with an example of myself, which is definitely not reserved for me. It is a societal problem at this point, and has been for a long time, especially with the advent of social media and smartphones and all of that. I'm not going to shake my cane talking about kids these days, what if phone but too much sort of shit. But it has had a noticeable effect on people's attention span, and myself included. And it has gotten to the point where people will be able to read things on their phone for hours a day, but they do not have the concentration to read a book, which I found myself relating to. And I wanted to change that, because I also keep hearing or seeing the term post-literate society, and that terrifies me on a visceral level. The idea of kids and adults coming up through the absolute joke, the farce of the United States public school system, being unable to read, and I could expand on all of the other things that they're not learning, but I suppose that will be a topic for another video if I decide to make it. So I set my foot down and I was like, I am not going to be someone who can't read a book. I do not want to be that person. And I hunkered down and I decided to crack open a book. Was I successful? Immediately? No, I was not. It could very well have been because the book I chose to read first was Neuromancer by William Gibson. I think I'm about 60 pages into no, I'm like 50 pages into that book, and I just could not do it. All the respect to William Gibson for, writing that book and it being as influential as it continues to be. Not my thing. And then I started reading Snow Crash by Neal Stephenson. I bought them both at the same time. We got the little cyberpunk duo. And I found myself a little more into that because it's funny. It is written so snidely that I really appreciated it. And the fact that it was published in 1992 and yet it could be published tomorrow and it would still be fine. That's really something. But again, with that, I didn't get terribly far before I was like, I'm not really finding anything that I can latch onto here. And then a couple weeks later, someone mentioned they were asking, should I read the Lord of the Rings trilogy first or should I read House of Leaves? And that was an interesting question. And I had my copy of House of Leaves right next to my bed, staring at me, waiting. And I was like, yeah, I have that. Maybe I should crack it open. And I read that thing in like 4 days. So I was, in fact, capable of reading a book. And I really liked House of Leaves. People keep saying it's spooky infinite jest, and I would not categorize House of Leaves as spooky or necessarily a horror novel. It's so much more than that I feel like calling it spooky is kind of reductive. It's a story within a story within a story, and I love that shit. All of the bizarre tangents it went on and all of the exhausting academic shit that was shoved into that book. I lapped it up like a dog. Great experience. I would not recommend it to probably anybody I know. It is hard to recommend something like that because when you do that, you're more recommending an idea. You're recommending a compliment to somebody's preferences. Perhaps overestimating their ability to read it, but nonetheless, I very much enjoyed House of Leaves. I haven't read Infinite Jest, so I will have to withhold my judgment on that comparison. I would like to read it eventually just to see what all the buzz and shit talking is about. I feel like it's mostly just dunking on men for reading, and it's like, do you not want them to read? I mean, I feel like everybody should read. I don't care if a grown man is reading Catcher in the Rye. That's his business. At least he's reading. He's not reading the fucking Turner Diaries. We're not touching that territory, all right? But let him read. You know, and if someone wants to read something trashy, let them read. Reading is good. Maintaining literacy is important in this day and age, in fact, I would argue. So, I ended up reading that, and then I read Slaughterhouse-Five, which was a masterpiece. I read The Grapes of Wrath after that, again, a masterpiece. Then I read a nonfiction book and like 3 more Kurt Vonnegut books. And Camp Damascus by Chuck Tingle. But, you know, I was glad to prove to myself that I could do that. But the other thing that concerns me about people not reading is book bans and the rise of puritanical Christo-fascist bullshit that is just sucking the life out of everybody. And I cannot abide by that at all. Preventing people from reading things has never been seen as a good thing. Ever. Preventing people from learning how to read historically has been seen as a dick move, to put it charitably. Literacy is important. Your mind is your own, and from me personally, I implore you to keep that in mind and to take advantage of that. Do not let people tell you what to think, especially if it is the government. An authoritarian regime telling you what to think and what to read, because the only thing they want you to read is the fucking Bible. Nothing wrong with reading that, but, you know, broaden your horizons a little bit. Be dangerous by reading a novel. Again, not the Turner Diaries. I'm hoping we're making that clear. I do not encourage being influenced by hateful people whose ideas should, in fact, be on the fringes of society instead of given a platform on every major media outlet. Just a personal opinion. So, yeah, I have a book list. You can easily find a list of banned books and go be an edgelord. Unleash your inner teenager. And, you know, just be like, oh, well, they don't want me to read this Kurt Vonnegut book, or they don't want me to read Catcher in the Rye, or what have you. Read something, you know. If I have not made anything clear in the past 14, almost 15 minutes, please read a book. Please. I mean, I can't read The Training of an English Gentleman to you anymore unless I make an OnlyFans account, but I don't think there's enough demand for me to do that. So, just please. For me. For me. Please. Read. Fiction or nonfiction. You know, I encourage the reading of novels and fiction because there is artistry to storytelling, and you know, read history books that are about things that, you know, people don't want you to learn about. Just you know, all the people who are like, you need to learn your history, and then you do, and they're like, not that history. I want you to read a history book that doesn't have a bibliography. Like, fuck you. So, yeah, please read. I don't want to steal, you know, the sign off from Lady of the Library. Her little tagline is, what, books save lives, so keep reading. You could do that. You could take that away. But you can also just be like, this random YouTuber with like 5 subscribers wants me to read a banned book, so I'm gonna do that. I support it.